What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be going over 2.5's competitive tier list. We have a little bit of data what BT20 is starting to shape up to be, and I'm excited to talk about it. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So let's dive into this and talk about all the good stuff. First off, we have Bloom Lord. Bloom Lord's still a tier 2 deck. Let's be straight honest with you. Bloom Lord has so much great value even now, especially with the news of Digimon. They're kind of teching in other stuff to kind of make the deck even more functional. So it's kind of cool that it still comes in and out of the format, and people have top with it. Phoenix Bird with Ancient Gray, Ancient Birds. Definitely solid tier 2 deck. I wouldn't call it screaming tier 1, but has a lot of potential to kind of just hold up with the meta in generalization. Mirage, still solid tier 1 deck. The deck still does exactly what it's been always to do, OTK, and it's just not going anywhere. Definitely Black War Greymon. It's definitely sitting at tier 3 right now. Nothing we can kind of do with that. Then we have Galactimon. Definitely solid tier 2, like bottom of tier 2, like top of tier 3. Just Galacticmon is really powerful of a deck, right? The promo, the new support with Zenith, but we should be starting to see some new support coming in BT21, which will lead to being a lot better for it. Then we do have our friend, Mugen. Definitely not the tier 2 competitor that it used to be. Definitely has fallen off. To be honest with you, it's almost getting closer and closer to tier 4 because of how slow it's been getting. Like, the deck is phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but we're getting to a point where the deck is definitely showing its wear and tear, right? That's vitally important. Then we have Hunters. I still think the Hunters deck is still solid tier 2 deck. It still can do definitely well into the format. Just players have new shiny toys to play with. Beelzemon, definitely solid tier 2. Deck's got a brand new support, brand new everything, so it's kind of pretty solid there. Then we have the none other than our good friend, the Rosemon deck, aka Lilymon, stuff like that. Definitely tier 3. I'm gonna say tier 3 for our good friend D Brigade. Just one of those decks that kind of fallen off. Now we do have Fenrir Luga. Regular Fenrir Luga still solid into the meta. It's not like tier 1 broken, but it's still definitely pretty good. Then we do have none other than War Greymon. War Greymon still pretty solid. Definitely suffering the same boat as Black War Greymon. Just the support's just not there to really just spark that interest you want. Now we do have Digipolice. Definitely give it some better support. The Oriumon just isn't cutting it. The Garurumon deck, Metal Guru, definitely tier 3. Can do some crazy shenanigans into tier 2, but once it starts getting tier 1, it's kind of scary. It doesn't do as well. Apocalypse. This is Apocalypse with the purple mill engine. So definitely a tier 2 deck. I feel like it definitely does well into the tier 2s and just does crazy shenanigans, giving you an alternate win con. It isn't going anywhere anytime soon. This is Imperial Dramon. Imperial Dramon is still solid, crazy strong. No surprise there. Tyrant definitely started seeing some comeback play in little recently, even now. Definitely tier 2. Small little bit of tech choices lead into making this deck just slightly better. Black base Daruga SOC, definitely tier 2. Still kind of just does its own little thing with the abilities that it has access to. It's just really solid. Bunnies, definitely you've been seeing it lately. Definitely a tier 2 deck. It's just pretty solid, especially with the new support it's been getting. We're going to see some Terriermon support in this set, so it leads to having some great value there. Then you do have Blue Magnamon, Magna X, just pretty solid tier 2 deck. I wouldn't scream that it's like tier 3 or anything like that, or tier 1 anymore. I definitely think it's a tier 2 deck. Ancient Gray. Ancient Gray is still solid. Not like tier 1, but definitely a tier 2 deck pretty solidly. Ancient Garu can definitely do some crazy shenanigans, but I feel like the tier 2 decks has gotten enough support that it just does not matter anymore. Argomon, definitely a dead deck, just doesn't do anything crazy into the format. Dexteruga purple base, definitely solid tier 2 deck. Deck is still doing a lot what it was doing before. Even with the tech in a Death X, it might lead to being some crazy shenanigans in the future, but we'll have to see. Eosmon, definitely can do some shenanigans. Wouldn't say it's a tier 2 deck, but definitely a tier 3 deck, real at the end of the day. I think this is probably where it wants to sit. Omnimon got a new toy with Omnimon X. Nothing too crazy, but I still think it's a solid rogue pick into the meta. So pretty solid there. Then you have Takamazuchi, Takame. Takame is just really solid, to be straight honest with you. There's nothing wrong with the deck. The deck is probably one of the decks that people have been asking for hits long enough for. Now you have Greymon. This is just Greymon stacks. Definitely tier 3. I wouldn't scream tier 2. Emperor Gray. Sadly, the deck is definitely tier 4. Definitely needs a lot more support for it to be fundamentally better. It can do some crazy things at the local level, but outside of that, you're not really gaining any true momentum out of the deal, right? Now, you do have the, other hybrid versions. I think this hybrid is definitely dead with the Ice-Clad version of hybrid. It's not really doing much. Then you do have Magna Guru with the top, purple hybrid. So it kind of just sits in that weird category that it is pretty good into the top tiers, but nothing too crazy, right? Shadow Sharafe, which is like Setcon shenanigans. I definitely think Setcon's in the tier 2 still. And it's just ace Setcons, right? Now you do have Duskmon being Duskmon here. Definitely solid deck. I would definitely say that no matter what variant you kind of get either a tier 1 or tier 2 style. The base representation for Duskmon is definitely tier 1, I think. Now you do have the fishy deck, which is not truly fishy. It's just Raygunmon here. I think it just needs some better support at this point. Dynasmon, definitely don't want to say it's tier 2, but it's definitely tier 3. People were mentioning that it was a little bit better than where I placed it, but definitely would say there. Lucemon can do some neat tricks, but nothing too crazy. I would just say it's just give it better support, or even just say it's a dead deck. It just does not keep up with the meta. So we'll move it to dead. The Bees, aka, Funbeemon and stuff like that. Definitely tier 3 after a little bit of watching where it's going. It just doesn't do much. Dark Nightmon. I wish that the Lord Nightmon support was better and it would lead to being some more crazy shenanigans, but it just didn't get there, right? Now, we do have Lord Nightmon. I think Lord Nightmon is still pretty solid into the meta. Definitely a high tier 2 deck. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Definitely seeing where these guys are kind of just the tier 2 crowd. I would say Apocalypse a little bit lower in the tier 2, but these are kind of like the big 4, the tier 2, and we'll get more. Millenniumon gets his finally gets the secret Nene. It's good, but it's just not going to be groundbreaking really at the end of the day, right? Now we do have purple Imperial Dramon. I definitely think it's a crazy strong deck. I think it'll do actually well into format that I would actually comfortably put it in tier 1. Now we're kind of getting into the weird category where we don't know where this is going to go. But Jessamon, definitely think it's a solid tier 2. I think Jessamon just going to take some time to figure out where people are going to build it and how to, but it definitely is going to pop off. The Seedramon X, definitely tier 2. I definitely see it's been topping more and more local level scenes and stuff like that. It could lead to being some better long-term matchups, but we'll have to see where that kind of goes, right? Now, we do have the Taka Mizuchi, deck with the new support, which is more Pulsemon theme, I would say. If you're going to build Pulsemon theme, this is definitely... I wouldn't scream tier 2, but it's definitely tier 3 at best. Now, you do have Excel. Excel is definitely, I would say, is high tier 3, maybe bottom tier 2. Just from watching some gameplay, we'll have to see long-term if the deck actually does some crazy shenanigans. Then you have the Voldermon. kind of decks and stuff like that, would just say about tier 3 as well. Examon, definitely would say bottom tier 2. I think it has some great utility. Right pilot can definitely make the deck shine. Invisimon, just give it better support at this time. I think that's really what it needs. Looking at it now, Oryukenmon Ace, which is the, you know, not a venture, but you know what I mean. The deck that is centralized, that isn't Alphamon focused, but basically the two colors, right, that uses the, you know, new mechanics and stuff like that. Definitely tier 2. Wouldn't scream tier 1 or anything like that, but bottom tier 2. Heavy Metal Dramon, finally a confident deck, but definitely would not put it in tier 2. Would definitely say tier 3. Ghosty boy, Ghosty. Violet and Boots just wasn't enough to save the deck, and I think I wouldn't want to throw it in tier 4 because I don't think people have time to experiment and test with it more, but I definitely think tier 3 bottom is where it's going to sit for right now. Could definitely change up and improve, but we'll have to see. Now you do have our Zephygamon. Zephyga is starting to move up a little bit. I think it's still tier 3. I wouldn't scream tier 2. Alphamon X, which is the Royal Knights deck, definitely sitting here very comfortably. Very important. Now, Alphamon, the regular black-based one that's focusing, I think will do pretty well into the format as well. I think it'll sit right here for now, and I think it's not bad. Melody Reaper, definitely tier 3. It's a good deck. It can play right into the tier 2 field, but once it starts getting to the tier 1, and they go way too fast for Mother, the setup, and if you're going too fast for Mother, it just doesn't add up. Dragon Link's definitely got some more support in its like option text, but it's just about there. Tier 3 still. I think the Hina gives it a lot. It can pop off and get quite well, but I have yet to see a list even with the promo. Now, Blue Flare definitely got some support, tier 2 at least. Gaiomon, definitely hope for some more support in the future, but right now, tier 3. Now, we do have Ranger, Power Rangers, basically, the Green Ranger. This uses Leopardmon X and a few of its supports because it can play stuff for reduced costs, especially the aces and stuff, and it leads to being very cheap. Definitely tier 2 in my opinion. Heavy Leomon, tier 3 at best. Leviathan is definitely tier 2. Leviathan's just doing Leviathan. Galaxy is really solid into the format. Just very toolbox heavy, right? Nothing too crazy out of the ordinary. 7 Great Demon Lords, definitely a really solid deck. I think they just kind of match here right next to the new, you know, Royal Knights. Ragnar Lord Mon, definitely tier 3. Wouldn't call it tier 2, but tier 3. When the deck goes off, it goes off, right? Mastemon, just give it better support at this point. Dominionmon, definitely would say high tier 2 as well. Dominion's just really solid. I wouldn't scream tier 1 for it, but definitely there. Diaboromon definitely fell out of favor. Definitely needs some more support now. Hexablau, which basically is just blue generic good stuff. Sitting at tier 2. Cinderellamon, this can be anything you kind of want to say about it. It's pretty solid, tier 3. Sadly, this deck fell down a little bit. I definitely think this is tier 3. You know, the Talcomon deck, it's just where it's at. Bielstar Ace, aka the Three Musketeers, definitely tier 3. Wouldn't go higher than that. Lilithmon, would not. I definitely put it tier 1 at first, but I definitely think this is fallen out of favor here. Now, black base blocker shenanigans, definitely tier 2. This is the Bielstar purple hybrid shenanigans. Definitely think it's still solid into tier 2 meta. Now we have Dinomon, definitely solid tier 2 deck, actually. It does pop off when it pops off. High level events, I don't expect it to go crazy, but hey. Deep Saves, definitely a solid tier 3 deck. This is Skittymon. Skittymon's definitely a tier 2. Now, we do have Sakuyamon X here, but the reason why I'm doing that is it's because, I'm going to be straight honest with you. Right now, if there's no restrictions to the Talmon loop, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be a crazy strong deck, and it's going to be Yellow's biggest deck at the moment. If it's hit, I definitely think it'll fall down to tier 2 just for players to have access to. But this is Talmon Loop, so we're going to just say it's there. Just the X, just because it finally got its full support, good, but definitely needs some more just to fix it up. Pure Minimon definitely is solid at the great local levels, but once it gets higher events, it just doesn't do much. The Nightmare Soldier deck, pretty solid. Gatekeepers as well. Bogramon, I'm just going to call it dead deck. We ain't wasting time. And then finally, our champion, our best deck of the format, Gallimon X. So I definitely think this is what we're kind of expected here. Even just when we're getting into worlds and stuff, I think at the end of the day, this is what we're going to expect if no hits to restrictions or anything comes forwards, right? This will be like the top dogs of the event. If there's a restriction, I'll make an updated one for the restriction list, but I think right now what we're looking at is probably the most competitively accurate. Oh yeah, let me add one more thing before we go crazy and I forget about it. People are going to probably ask, where's, the Crossheart going to land? Let me add that card real quick just to fix this up a little bit. So let's add it in, shall we? Now, we do have Crossheart. Definitely think it's solid, not tier 3, but tier 2. When the deck goes off, it goes burr and leads into being something a little bit better, right? I think this is kind of where the tier 1s are kind of stagnant here. You're not going to see many things different here. The only deck I'm Red Imperial Dramon is kind of like the big questionable boy. This definitely feels like where you're going to see most of this. This is going to be our big tier 2s. This has some good plays here. This does as well. If we actually just move this down like it should, I should just move them down. This should be where we're more accurately seeing decks at the higher calibers. And I think this is where we would see it the most, right? And I think at the end of the day, Deep Saves does have some crazy shenanigans. The Talcomon deck can definitely do some crazy local shenanigans. Pulsemon deck just needs more support. And at the end of the day, these are definitely extremely dead decks. And then you have Invisimon that just needs better support at this point. It needs another way for it to actually do something crazy. The problem comes down with Necromon is that it does have the purple hybrid variant, and that can lead to be something a little bit higher here. But its base form, I don't think it's enough right now. And it's such a big mystery because, again, even with players testing it, it hasn't popped off at like 16-player locals or anything like that. So it leads into that big question, is it going to be good enough? Like, these decks I have seen, I've seen enough lists that they are topping, getting 3rd to 4th and 16 to 32, 16s to, 18s to 32 players. That matters, right? That kind of gives us good variable information to what we can expect, right? Same thing with this row here is just definitely, we're going to have to wait and see what they do. And they could definitely move up a little bit. But all in all, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.